Hi, I'm James Hogan.
And I'm Ben Pendery. This is the May edition of Western Wednesdays.
Ben, I'm going to say something that seems impossible, but we're about to graduate a whole bunch of Catamounts into the class of 2024.
I love it when we have more alumni. It's one of the coolest things in the world. I mean, you go into commencement, and Chancellor Brown does a great job talking about this, James, as you know. She says, the ceremony that we do for our new freshman convocation, and then you get to go through that. Everybody puts on their regalia and has a big time, and then commencement, when, people think about the word commencement and you think that this is when you're done with college. But what does it mean to commence something, right?
It means to begin. That's it. That's it. Right. These guys, I'm also really partial to the class of 24. They entered in 2020. And you know what the world was like in 2020 with the pandemic. They came to Cullowhee and kind of stayed in their room.
Yeah.
For the world was online. It was just such a different time. So proud, congratulations to the class of 2024. You made it. I'm proud of you, and thanks for persisting and sticking it through. It was not an easy road.
They've seen a lot, and I think that what we've got here is a generation that have built such tremendous resiliency every year of their college experience. Not that every year of our college experience was exactly the same as the year before, but I mean, they have seen some gigantic swings of what an experience in Cullowhee looks like. And so for our alumni out there, if you're looking to something to be proud of, think about these students walking across the stage this month, and that's something that you should really be proud of.
I'm going to take your cue and pivot right over here because I've got a 2024 story, and then I've got, I also think one of the things that our American society needs to do is to have a version of Veterans Day or Memorial Day or something for healthcare workers who carried us through the pandemic, who bravely soldiered on in what was one of the greatest healthcare crises of many generations. So all of which is to say how perfect it was that earlier this year we had the chance, Stacy Miller and I had the chance to sit down at Cherokee Indian Hospital. And we sat down with a panel of Catamounts, alumni and leaders. We had a gentleman named D.D. Martin who is about to graduate. He will be a wet behind the ears member of the class of 2024, non-traditional student, but one who found his way back to Western and is finishing this degree, and we're so proud of him. Sat down with David Pinkerton, who is a pharmacist at Cherokee Indian Hospital, who went to Mercer, we forgive him, but came out of that program, his pharmacy program, knowing that he wanted to serve a Native American community, and found his way to Cherokee and knew he wanted to live and work there, and came to Western to go through our culturally based healthcare program, certificate program that we put on, and is now serving in the pharmacy there. Talked to Jennifer Thompson, a physical therapist, undergrad and graduate student, graduated class of 2000. And then finally, Casey Cooper, from our Board of Trustees, our leadership organization here at WCU, who is the vice chair. I mean, it was an all-star panel, Ben.
You had the right people in the room, and it was so great. And I'm thrilled that our viewers are going to get to watch this conversation, because you talk about a community that has taken ownership of its identity and celebrates its culture and has made the investments in, and not just healthcare. And we're going to hear a lot about that through this conversation with Casey and the alumni that you spoke with. But it was so neat to see somebody that loves Western so much, and that is Casey Cooper. Working alongside these alumni and alongside folks in their community to improve health outcomes and to think about the future, right? I mean, so much of what he said was focused on the future for the community there in Cherokee.
Casey is the CEO of Cherokee Indian Hospital, as well as being a leader for WCU. And we talk a lot about the partnership between this university, the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, and the hospital.
What does he say? The most important strategic partner?
The most important strategic partner that the Eastern Band has. And it's It's a long interview. We have a lot of great stuff in here, and so I want us to go ahead and kick over to it. But we'll be back after this interview. We've got some cool updates and some dates to share with you, and we'll be back.
It's great. Enjoy.
Thank you all for being here today. Jennifer, Dee Dee, and David, appreciate your time this afternoon. And it is really cool to be here in Cherokee Indian Hospital here on the Qualla boundary. Thank you for having us. Thank you for allowing us to spend some time with you all this afternoon. This is great. It's a little bit rainy outside. You can see behind us, but that's kind of the theme of Western Wednesdays, I think, is we always seem to be recording in the rain. And that's what WCU stands for anyways. We carry umbrellas.
That's right on.
That's right on the theme here. So I wanted to just start off this conversation hearing from you all a little bit about what brought you to WCU and why did you choose to pursue an education at Western Carolina? Jennifer, I know that you graduated first with your undergrad degree in 2000. And tell us a little bit about why you chose Western.
Honestly, I chose Western because in high school I had my daughter. I had her the day before my senior year in high school started, and I wanted to be able to raise her, and it was convenient. But what I found is that it was easy for me to raise her and to get my education as well. So that's why I chose there, but it felt like home. It was
so you
easy.
had a lot to manage.
I had a lot to
while you were
manage.
going to
Wow.
school, and tell us a little bit about how you organized all of that. Like you must have had to have a to-do list every single day to make sure you were keeping up with it.
I had amazing family support. Both of my parents were teachers, and they supported me as best they could. They helped me with her as far as I took her to school until she got into school, and then she rode to school with my parents. But they picked her up for me while I was in school, and they were just amazing support system for me.
That's awesome. And Daryl, Dee Dee, Martin, we're
Yeah.
putting you in the class of 2024.
Yeah.
So tell us,
Fingers crossed.
fingers crossed, we know that you're going to get there. And, actually, by the time this airs, you very well will be an alumnus of this university. So we're going to just go ahead and call you class of 2024.
Okay.
Dee
That'd
Dee,
be
tell
good.
us about why you chose Western.
The I guess the structure of it was manageable for me. Just like I told you earlier, it was actually this is my fourth time trying to go through and trying to earn a degree. I wasn't going to. I started out with Southwest, got my associates at Southwestern, and I wasn't going to. And I thought, well, I want to prove to my son, he's my youngest, so I wanted him to know that he can actually be able to get his degree and still be able to raise his family, his small family. So I wanted to do that and actually prove to myself that I could manage it and do it myself. So I tried it, and when I was at first start was electronics engineering.
Yeah.
And then it just went from there. Then when I got there, I'd done law enforcement for 15 years. So I got out of that and then went into stonemasonry. I'd done stonemasonry before I went into, so it made it Western. When I looked at the brochure and all that, it was a lot easier and manageable for me to do, and it helped associate it with what I was doing here. So business management and then business law, so.
That's fantastic. And I know I'm confident that your son is proud of you and will be even more proud of you with that cap and gown on too. That's fantastic. And David Pinkerton, class of 2020?
That sounds right. It's been a while. That sounds right.
Well,
yeah.
2020 is that odd year for graduating classes where, oh yeah, you didn't have a graduation because there was a global pandemic going on. Tell us about your pathway to Western.
So I did the culturally based health certificate there with Dr. Leffler. I feel like I've got a little bit of a Trojan horse situation here because I actually am a Mercer grad.
We forgive you.
Yeah, it's okay. So I actually did my undergrad at Mercer and actually my pharmacy degree at Mercer as well. I've always sort of known about Western Carolina. My dad is an alumni as well, and Actually, I played football at Mercer, so we used to play y'all every year.
Okay, you can
and,
just, we're going to edit all of this out,
well,
Sam.
yeah. Well,
And every time he says Mercer, we're going to say Western.
yeah.
I wish that I had played football
Yeah.
at Western.
Yeah, exactly. But I had a great experience at Mercer. But after as I was telling you, after I graduated pharmacy school, I started here as the pharmacy resident and did 1 year residency, pretty intensive training and everything, and then was fortunate enough to be able to stay on here as a full-time staff pharmacist. And pharmacy school teaches you how to care for the whole gambit of patients, but then I always felt once you got settled at a facility, it's best to start learning those specific patients as best you can. And so I started sort of researching opportunities to learn more about EBCI history, the patients, and all that. And yeah, the certificate program at Western fit perfectly with what I was looking for, and had a tremendous experience with it. I loved the patients here. It's been an absolute pleasure serving them, and so that for me was nice to be able to combine both my doctor of pharmacy degree with then like that more specific learning the history, the culture of the tribe, and understanding a bit more about what makes these patients so unique, and understanding more about how I can best help them.
That's awesome. And that's definitely something we want to come back to and talk about more. We're so excited also to welcome Casey Cooper to our panel. Casey, thank you for taking time out of your day. I know you have been running around all day today, including right up until the moment we started this interview, but thank you so much for joining us here. And Casey Cooper, Vice Chair of the Board of Trustees at WCU, CEO of Cherokee Indian Hospital. It's really great to have you here. And thank you for hosting us in this incredible facility at Cherokee Indian Hospital. And I wanted to just start off by asking you, tell us about this place. It is the nicest hospital that I've ever been in my life. Tell us about how it got here.
Well, so thank you for that, and thank you for having me join this wonderful group of folks here today for this. So a little bit about the hospital. We built the hospital. We opened the doors, cut the ribbon, and in the fall of 2015. And this hospital was really, it was kind of like the pinnacle or the manifestation of this journey that we had been on for about 15 years. And this journey that we were on was trying to determine how to best utilize our healthcare resources to really make an impact on community health. And how do you really elevate the health of a population of people that has really disparate health rates and chronic disease rates, and et cetera? And how do you elevate the health of a population that has been structurally disadvantaged for so long? And so what we have a philosophy here, and that is that in order to elevate the health of the population, we have to have families and patients be engaged in their own healthcare journey. And in order for us to help them be engaged in their own healthcare, they have to have an amazing experience of care when they're here. And they have to have trusting relationships with a care team. So to ensure that they have a positive experience of care, we put a lot of work and intentionality into the facility so that it minimizes stress and the effects of stress physiology, and it minimizes kind of the normal irritants that would cause you to be discouraged from maintaining your health. And so all of this, everything that you see here, has really only one purpose, and that is to elevate the health of the community.
I want to just point out that we are in a hospital right now. We are sitting in the middle of a hospital, and we had a lot of different quiet spaces that we could choose from to shoot, and that seems so intentional that there are so many little alcoves where you can find a peaceful corner. And sure, there are people walking by and the elevator's going and the phones are ringing, but there are so many peaceful places where you can stop and enjoy the scenery. There's great light in here. Downstairs earlier, I was admiring just the flooring, the representations of nature. I see so many cultural elements reflected in this facility. That's got to be on purpose, right?
No question about it. It's very intentional.
Yeah.
There's one of our guiding principles for the organization is Nihi Tate Li. And Nihi Tate Li means it belongs to you. And so what that means to our patients, who are customer owners, if you will, is that this is yours. It is your facility. And we're simply stewards of your inheritance. And that's what we do. And so all of the intentionality around culture throughout the organization was to help instill a sense of pride and ownership in the actual services, again, to drive up engagement.
Thank you. Yeah.
So in touching on, what a little bit of what is different about this place and the services offered and the way they are offered, would each of you share maybe what brought you or what led you to choose to be here, right? We all know one of the benefits of being in healthcare is you're transferable. You could almost go anywhere, right? But what made you choose to be here?
Well, I had a little bit of a unique path to get here, and I actually went into my fourth and final year of pharmacy school thinking I wanted to do emergency medicine. That was my heart was there, my passion was there, and I was fortunate enough to have an Indian Health Service rotation in Arizona at a smaller IHS facility in Parker, Arizona, and that was a game-changing moment for me. I mean, I did a 180 there. I had a tremendous preceptor. The patients were wonderful there, and I left. It's amazing in 5 weeks how much your life can change. I came back to Georgia, and emergency medicine was the last thing in my mind. I was like, I want to do IHS pharmacy no matter what, and so I started sort of researching the facilities and knew I wanted to get additional training through a residency program. And so every year there's a conference for pharmacists. And this year it was in the year I was graduating, it was in Anaheim, California. And so I had done all my research on Cherokee, and I knew what I was, who I needed to see and all that sort of stuff. And I was a student at this time, so I scraped up all the money I could get to fly out to California and meet with these folks. And just that networking I was able to do with some of the leadership in the pharmacy program, I knew, if I could just get an interview, I'd be on cloud nine. I was like, I just need a chance there. And so luckily I submitted my application and stuff and was able to get an interview for the residency program. And sort of like Casey was alluding to, when I drove up here for my interview, it was just immediately I was like, wow, this is the most beautiful hospital I've ever seen. Which made me just more nervous. I was like, this is a
Don't blow it.
Yeah, this is such a the professionalism and just the uniqueness of this facility. It made me so much more nervous for my interview. But as I was interviewing with the pharmacy staff and they gave me a tour around the facility and stuff, I could see how close they were within that inner family there in the pharmacy. That's a unique thing to see sometimes in pharmacy. I could see the respect, the customer service that they were treating the patients with, and also just how sort of proactive they were at being on the front edge of pharmacy with all the new technology, new processes, clinical medicine. They were on the forefront of all those things. And so I was very lucky, very blessed that that interview worked out for me, and I was offered the position. And it's funny in hindsight, I put all my eggs in one basket. I had done all my research, like I said, about
I hope this works out.
multiple IHS facilities, and I was very firm in like if it can't be Cherokee Indian Hospital for me, I don't know if it's a fit, and so that's all I can say is I was blessed to end up here, and I've been here about 4.5 years now, and it's tremendous. I mean, the patients are wonderful. All those things I saw in my interview, that's been the same way it's always been. The customer service that we're able to offer patients, and the relationship both within your coworkers, it's a family, and then with patients, you start to build those relationships as well. And I just can't say enough how rewarding it is.
Dee Dee, earlier you mentioned wanting to serve your community.
Yeah, I did, and I did at the time, and got out of law enforcement. This for 15 years is like I said earlier, it's a 180, a totally different role, meeting with the community as patients or family members is totally different. And I love the professionalism that the hospital offers to our community. Mm-hmm. And that's what I wanted to give back to the community as well as what I can offer them for giving me the privilege of working here.
Jennifer, I want to get to your experience as an educator, as someone who is a school board member. But before we get to that, Casey, I wanted to ask you, as not only as a leader for Cherokee Indian Hospital, but also as a leader for WCU, I've heard you talk about the importance of that partnership between the hospital and the university, and also between the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians and the university. Could you tell us more just about your perspective, sitting amongst all of these different groups, of that relationship and the importance of how what it means, I guess, to the future here at Cherokee Indian Hospital?
Sure. Yeah. I say this so frequently, I'm afraid people are going to get tired of hearing it, but I really mean this, and I'm very sincere when I say that, in my opinion, the most strategically important partner that the tribe has is Western Carolina University. And you can look at you can look at the tribe, you can look at this panel, you can look at the leadership of this organization, and there's WCU alumni everywhere. I mean, this organization is full of WCU alums. We've had, and I share this story a lot. It's not insignificant that two of our most recent principal chiefs are WCU alum. We have, I think, at least 4 tribal council members who are WCU alum. I mean, there's no question about it that Western is extremely significant in our lives. And so my passion is to enhance that partnership even more. You say, well, okay, what does that mean, Casey? Well, we have literally tried to turn ourselves into the applied learning partner of choice for the university. It's literally documented in our strategic plan here at the Cherokee Indian Hospital that we will be the applied learning partner of choice for Western. And that means your nursing students, that means your physical therapy students, that means, accounting students. We have 2 full-time employees now that do nothing but precept students, because it's that important. And part of the reason that we have made it such a strategic priority is exactly what David said. Your experience as a student matters. We can get you to fall in love with us as a student. We can get you to fall in love with the mission and the work, and we can get lifelong commitment, or we can destroy dreams, right? And so we're going to choose the former, not the latter. And I tell my staff, we view every single student who comes here as a possible career employee. If we can win their heart and win their commitment, if we can sell them on the vision of improving ensuring the prosperity of the next 7 generations of this community, if we can get them excited about working for an organization where one of our guiding principles is to be like family, to be like family together, to work in an organization where everybody gives from their heart. So it means that you give, you lean in, you give your discretionary effort. We want to excite people to work in an organization like that. And if we can build these partnerships and we can start to invest and cultivate that very early with students and interns and that kind of thing, that's exactly where we want to be.
I love hearing that. And it's thank you for saying that. It really is meaningful. And Jennifer, before we started recording, you were telling us that so many of your PT employees here are WCU grads, that you think about that all the time, just the needs that you have here for career employees and the future and of where you're going to hire from. But also you're thinking about it from a K-12 perspective as a school board member. So could you tell us just a little bit about what you do in terms of education as well, and how all those things line up and connect?
Part of my role as a school board member is one to ensure that the education process for Cherokee Central Schools is where it needs to be. It's different at Cherokee Central Schools because we're not your normal public school. We receive a majority of our funds from the federal government, so we do have different criteria that does include more cultural standards. So we have a lot more standards than your regular public school system would. So we have to include a lot more of those cultural standards. So that's incorporated into every single class period, math, science, reading, all those things. But our partnership with Western, we get a lot of our student teachers from Western. So that partnership that Casey described for the healthcare, we also enjoy that partnership with our teachers. So that's very unique and important also in that regard. We try to cultivate that in the education system, not just with that, like our athletic trainers, we use that system as well. We have a student right now that from Western Carolina, one of our athletic trainers, he's a preceptor for that. Our new speech language pathologist, one of our students come from there. So there's like so many educational opportunities from Western Carolina University and Cherokee Indian Hospital. That's very passionate to me. Like one thing that my dad taught me as an educator is that the one thing that no one ever can take from you is your education. They may be able to strip you from everything else that you have, but your education is something that you've always earned. And that's one thing that I want to instill in the students at Cherokee Central Schools is that to go after whatever your dreams are, they can't take that from you.
Picking up on the partnership, I'm going to keep down this track for just a little bit. Working at Cherokee Indian Hospital is different. We've talked about working at Cherokee Central Schools is different. And so when we talk about those differences in the cultural approaches to both education and healthcare here, Western has a course on the healthcare side that is specifically built around learning how to work with this population. And David, I think you told us that you took that course, right? Could you share a little bit about that maybe, and how did that prepare you for this career and being here in this place?
Yeah, I'll start by saying I'm thankful that I took the certificate program when I did. I'd been working here for about 2 years, I think, when I started it. And so I had a good foundational knowledge of pharmacy, of real experience helping patients here. And so, as I said, Dr. Leffler has, and those who have helped her build the program, it's a very robust program, and it helped me sort of have that life experience and real examples to help apply some of the information that was being taught in the course. And it really built on itself. The certificate program built on itself in a very logical manner. The first classes I remember was focused largely on the history of the tribe. And then the next couple courses went into different healthcare issues that the tribe faces now and what we're doing right now to address it. I think I've always been a very empathetic person, and I've always I told you all about my grandma rule, try to always treat people like it's your grandmother and understand that this is somebody's loved one that you're helping with. And that sort of helps you understand the importance of going the extra mile for that person in front of you. And I'll say the town I grew up in Georgia was a very small town, Bogart, Georgia. Growing up there, I saw different challenges that people faced and things like that. And so there's a lot of similarities with this community, but there's also a lot of differences. And I think that certificate program helped me sort of build on what was already a strength for me and my empathy and compassion for people. And it helped show me the sort of the trials and tribulations history-wise and even today that these patients face. And so it helped me understand, as somebody coming from the outside into this community, what, something like multi-generational trauma means and how it is still very present today. And so I think it helped me build on that already strength that I had to understand this patient that is in front of me right now. It helped me understand how I can better help them. And, we're talking about a medication here, this prescription they're picking up from the pharmacy, but they may have X, Y, and Z other factors going on in their life, other things that they have faced that day. And so really it's how can I help them in this role here? And one of the things Casey said too, which I like to always remember in the pharmacy, is how can we reduce those barriers for patients and make it an easier, more streamlined process for them in the pharmacy. I told y'all some of my experience at other sort of outpatient community chain pharmacies, and maybe I shouldn't have name dropped the specific company and stuff, but this community pharmacy we have is so much different, where you can have those relationships with patients. You go the extra mile for them, and you figure out how you can best help them navigate the process. A lot of patients are going to these community pharmacies where it's very challenging to figure out how to best navigate it. It's very transactional in some of those situations, and it's not like that here. And that's one of the things the certificate program helped me really understand is, what patients have going on in their life, and how if I can even be a small piece in helping out with that, it's very rewarding.
Anybody else want to jump in on that?
I think for me, coming from here, you understand a lot more than other people do. I think one of the things being with the school system also and having to teach part of the generational trauma aspect is that people coming in see that we have a casino. They automatically assume that we have money and that everything's fine and dandy, but it's not. We still have a lot of things that we have to work through. We still have a lot of people that are dealing with day-to-day trauma. And being able to work here and working in my department and seeing the patients for who they are and being able to take care of all of their needs is something that I really appreciate. It's one thing that I don't think that therapists in other facilities really get to do. We get that luxury of truly being able to treat our patients how they deserve to be treated. And that's one thing that I know that I've shared with Mr. Cooper about, that it's just my entire career I've been able to treat every single one of my patients how they need and deserve to be treated. And there's restrictions for insurances, but that's not what's most important. The patient's the most important, and getting that patient better. And I think everybody on this panel can understand that and agree with that the patient's going to get what they truly need and deserve. And that's the bottom line, is they're going to get the health care that they deserve. And to me, that's super important. And that's why I love here. That's why I've always wanted to work here, and that's why I will end my career here. Is that, these are my people, and they deserve the best, and that's what I choose to do.
If it's okay, I wanted to expand on something that David was saying about the certificate program, and I absolutely love that program, and I can't thank Lisa Loeffler enough for having the foresight to do that. Because we believe that in order to be in really genuine, authentic relationships, we have to appreciate and have empathy for each other's stories, right? Our stories matter. Our stories, they shape our mental models. Our stories affect the way we communicate and the way we receive information. And if we know each other's stories, we have an understanding of what our worldview is and how to better communicate with each other through those things. And not everybody grows up in this community, but that's okay. You can still be significant in this community, even though you're not from this community, if you are genuine and authentic and you have cultural humility and you're willing to do the work to understand our story. Because then you can build healthy, authentic relationships that are influential in this community. And wonderful people like David that have really leaned in and said, I want to be influential in this community. I want to be significant in the lives of the people I take care of. And it's worth it to me to learn more about them so that I can expand my influence and for the good, to improve the health of the community. That's what we want, right? But it doesn't do any good to motivate people if we don't have the tools to help them to learn.
Yeah.
And Dr. Loeffler, building the certificate program and the relationship with Western, gives us another set of tools to help people in that way.
I'm going to go off script a little bit and just say, why don't more healthcare providers think holistically about how they approach patient care from a personal level, from a cultural level? Why is it that this is so unique and so special?
So I would love to hear what they say about this, but I will tell you why I think it's unique and special, and that's because our core purpose is different. The why do we exist? That's really what matters, right? Ask any healthcare system why they exist, and you'll get a different answer. But in this organization, hopefully every employee that you ask the question, why do you exist, they will say, to assure the prosperity of the next 7 generations of the Eastern Band of the Cherokee Indians. So we're not here trying to gain market share. We're not here trying to advance the brand of a healthcare system. We're here trying to ensure that there are Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians into perpetuity. Right, and that's an entirely different core purpose, and then that brings about a different mission and different guiding principles, and so the work is just organized differently. Let me share with you. Some of the listeners might say, "It's a little theoretical." Well, let me tell you just how practical that is. When we were building this facility, we had to develop a series of principles for the design and the architecture of the building, and we said to them that experience of care is absolutely paramount to anything else. So if we have a decision where operational efficiency and experience of care clash, then operational efficiency has to subordinate, right? So when you pulled in, you saw that there is the curve of the building leans to the wayfinding and makes it easy and stress-free for you to find a parking space. When you pulled in, you saw that there are 3 large entrances, 2 portico shares that are within 60 feet of each other. That's because the community said they wanted the shortest distance to the service they wanted. Is it inefficient from an energy standpoint? Yes, but it doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter how operationally efficient we are if we're not influential, and we can't be influential unless they have a positive experience of care. So that's where the principles and the commitment, the core purpose, the mission, that's where it's examples like that where it's really applied.
From your perspective, how is this radically different from experiences that you've had elsewhere?
I've only ever practiced here.
This is it. This is the best, and I'm not leaving.
Well, honestly, I do feel like it is the best because of part of what I mentioned before is that we have the capability of treating the whole person. Mm-hmm. We don't necessarily have the restrictions on us. I know that I have other therapists that have come from other facilities that, as was mentioned before, that you may get 10 visits and that's all you get. And that's all they're going to get. But if they need 20 visits here, we get 20 visits. We get to treat the whole patient. That's what we love.
So there's this concept, and it was made famous by my favorite nurse theorist, Dr. Madeline Leininger. And she talks about how the ultimate ambition of transcultural care or culturally congruent care is that eventually first of all, you would have cultural preservation. So you don't force people to stop being who they are, right? And we do that every time we have a high acuity service. They strip us naked, put a gown on us, and put an IV on us, and put a band, and we're no longer who we were, right? So first of all is cultural preservation, and then the next thing is cultural accommodation. How do we accommodate it? How do we accommodate that culture in a way that we can deliver care to them that is consistent with their values and their views? And then at the bottom, how do we repattern the way that culture interacts with each other in a way that's healthy and consistent with healthy lifestyles and healthy behaviors, which is exactly what we want. It's powerful. It's beautiful.
It's absolutely putting the patient at the center of care, even from the bureaucratic side, right? I mean, nobody listening to this really wants to go fill out a form, right? Nobody wants to have to figure out whether my insurance provider is going to approve this or not, or whether or not this is going to be within my, plan of care or things like that. And so having someone who feels like an ally in that process must be critical to that trust factor. Casey, I wrote it down, that ownership sense that this belongs to you, not to us, but to you.
Right.
That must really put a patient in an empowered position when it comes to their health care.
So I hope that it does, and we hear patients say that it does, that they embrace that. But it kind of sends the message to staff, that we are patient-centric. We're not provider-centric. The patient is at the center of this. And it also helps, quite frankly, the resources here are held in common for the whole community. And that, too, is very different from other healthcare systems. And if you need an entire community to come together in harmony and manage all these resources in common, they all have to have a sense of pride and ownership over them, right? Because they're decisions that we have to make sometimes, and we need the community to help us and support us in making those decisions. But the other thing about helping people understand that it belongs to them, it helps the employees here understand the absolute necessity for effective relationships and building good relationships. And if you'll bear with me, let me share a quick story with you. Before we had guiding principles and before we had a patient family advisory council, we used to have meetings of focus groups, if you will. They weren't really focus groups. It was me and Jody, and we would meet with consumers. And the only consumers that were engaged enough to come meet with us after hours and eat pizza and drink Pepsi were, you guessed it, moms.
Right.
And so the room would be full of moms. and so we had this series of meetings over and over again. And ultimately, it got to the point where we only had to ask them one question. And we would say to them, because there was a perception about the quality of care here, that there was a perception before we kind of, we'd really evolved, that kind of thing. There was a perception that the quality was low. And that didn't make sense to us. We had brilliant people working here. We had all these wonderful clinical pharmacists, and we had brilliant people in physical therapy like Jennifer and others. And the data showed that we were performing in the top quartile, and in some cases top decile on some of our quality metrics. So we get these moms together and we would say, what does quality care look like to you? If you're getting good quality care, what does it look like? And here's what the moms told us. Repeatedly, they would say, well, I know the quality's not that good here, but I get really great care. Really? Tell me about that. And these moms would say, well, I get really great care because Rita is my daughter's nurse. And Rita works for Dr. Wildcat. Dr. Wildcat is my daughter's doctor. And when I need anything for my daughter, I call Rita. You with me? And then she said, and if I ever have a problem with my medicine, I know Beth in the pharmacy and I call Beth. And these moms consistently told us this same story over and over again. And what they said was, I have relationships. I'm in relationship with people, and they perceived that nobody else had those kind of relationships. And because of the relationships, they felt, first of all, safe because someone cared enough about them, right, to make sure they were safe. And then number two, they felt like they had advocates. Those caregivers had influence with them. And so these moms taught us, in order to be effective in this community, everybody has to have those relationships.
Their person. They have to have their Rita.
That's right. Everybody has to feel like they have a Rita. And so we started just kind of trying to design a system that literally is based on those influential relationships. And that was hard. It was more difficult in some areas than others. Before we had clinical pharmacists, unfortunately, pharmacy was very transactional. Mm-hmm. The flow unit is a prescription. You fill the prescription. Somebody else actually hands it to the patient and counsels the patient. It's very transactional. But we were missing out on all the value that the clinical pharmacists could bring. They're brilliant, right? And they're proven that they do a really, really good job with chronic disease management. But we had to get them out of the pharmacy and embed them in primary care where they could build influential relationships over time the way Jennifer did in physical therapy and the way other people did.
I feel like the culture at WCU echoes this in a way, because I feel like there's always been such a student-centered experience. And we were talking about relationships with professors earlier. We were talking about the meaningfulness. David talked about how Dr. Leffler came to the pharmacy just to say, hey, I wanted to meet you and see you in action. And we hear about those kinds of stories. I think a lot of our students have that experience at some point in their time at Western where they feel like they've got their person. Mm-hmm. Their person that can pick up the phone and call. If that's Dr. So-and-so, if that's somebody in the dining hall, they have their person, and that person is kind of there with them through their journey at WCU. I know we're kind of getting toward the end here. Stacy, do you have any questions to throw out?
Well, I want to kind of take it back to the beginning, I think, and round it out maybe if we're there. But I'd like to hear. It's always fun, right? All of you are somewhat advanced in your careers. Some of you very advanced in your careers. If you went back and had, to your younger self, what advice would you give yourself?
Like I said, it's my fourth time through, so finally, hopefully. But I would tell myself, stick with it. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's going to be rough and challenging at times, but keep your nose down and straight and in the books and think positive because it will pay off in the end once you finish and get that degree. It's very rewarding.
I can go. I'd say a similar thing, just understanding that the path to success or making it there, or whatever term you want to use, is not going to be linear for most people. It's going to be, there's going to be some ups and downs to the journey and stuff, but that's part of what makes it so rewarding when you do have that diploma in your hand and family and friends cheering for you there. And, pharmacy wise, I think back when I was in school, and there's a lot of long nights, a lot of long days, lectures, and just, it's more than a full-time job. And so just knowing in those long days, just to continue studying hard, that'll end up paying off in the form of helping a patient down the line. You never know what small acts that you do will have huge impact on a patient later on. And so just knowing that, I remember, it's funny thinking back in school, being so worried, just you worry about the smallest little things, and then you look up in a couple of years and you're like, it's okay. And it's okay because you continue to work hard and, do right by people and be respectful and professional. And so it's just, if I could tell myself anything when I was back there in school and stuff, that would be it, is just stay the course and just know that it's hard work pays off. So,
Gosh, I think for me, what I could tell myself is just believe in yourself just as much as everyone else does. I know for myself, I doubted myself a lot. Being a single mom in high school, I wish I believed in myself as much as my parents believed in me. So I think going back, believe in yourself just as much as other people believed in you is the best advice. Just also allow yourself some grace also. I was so, driven that, I wanted to prove to all the doubters that I could do it. And so it's a good trait to have, I guess. But I was also so driven that I kept my eye on the prize a little bit too much sometimes. So.
Give yourself grace is an important lesson.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I think it was interesting and it's fun to kind of reflect on that question. What advice would you give yourself? And what was coming to mind to me was a couple things. Number one, I would say to myself, you're going to be okay. Don't be so distracted with surviving that you deafen yourself to what brings you joy. Because for a lot of us, there was no luxury. We weren't pursuing something that was fun. We're trying to figure out how to escape poverty. We were trying to figure out how to get, good income so that we could, pay the bills. And so, there was a number of reasons that I went into nursing school in undergrad, but the main reason was because there was a national nursing shortage and the salaries were good and I knew I could get a job and I would have some security, But so I think what I would say is, be responsible and make sure that you're okay, but pay close attention to what brings you joy, and do your best to match what brings you joy with your profession or your vocation, because then you get to spend more of your life in joy. And then the other thing that I would say is be cautious about things that you think brings you joy if those things don't also allow you to be significant in somebody else's life. Because there are self-indulgent joys that don't bring us true satisfaction, and they don't last us over the duration of our careers. And sometimes, in the pursuit of a self-indulgent joy, we start to lose the real meaning in life. So if you manage to find something that you love, that you're good at, that you can get paid to do, that allows you to be significant in somebody else's life, then you've hit the sweet spot. That's it. And don't worry about whether your dad wants you to be a lawyer or not. Don't worry about whether your aunts and uncles want you to go be into medicine if that's not what you want to be. If you can find those things, the thing that you're good at, that you want to do a lot, and therefore you get better at it, you're in the excellence cycle, it brings you joy, and you have the ability to be significant in somebody else's life, then you're there.
It's a home run. Casey, David, Dee Dee, Jennifer, thank you for your time. Thank you for the ways that you not only serve your patients, but the ways that you apply the skills that you've picked up along the way at Western and elsewhere. Thank you for allowing us to be here today. It has truly been a privilege and a joy to have this conversation with you, and we certainly wish you and the 7 generations to come the very, very best, and we're excited to play a small part in that partnership with you. So thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
That was absolutely amazing, James. I'm so happy that you and Stacy had the chance to visit with Casey. Those alumni were terrific. I know that it spoke to you, and as we've had a chance to think about it and reflect after that conversation, listening to Casey Cooper talk about their commitment to 7 generations of health among his people. Right. I mean, how do you not get chills thinking about that?
And you see the same commitment from Jennifer and Dee Dee, right? The serving their community, serving their neighbors and their family, and then also to see it from someone from the outside, from David's perspective. It was very powerful. And Ben, I just have to say again, you've been there before. I just can't say enough about how inspiring the facility is, the building is. I mean, we touched on it briefly in the interview, but it is the nicest hospital that I've ever been in, and I can't imagine just from a physical space perspective what that does for patients or the people who are seeking healthcare from there. But tremendous program, tremendous people, and going back to Casey referenced that strategic plan so many times. And that whole collective ownership, it belongs to you. I think that resonated a lot throughout everything they talked about.
You know, James, I think it's important to recognize that you and I get to sit here in a place of immense privilege, and I feel it every day as we think about the relationship that we have with the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. And so as our viewers have the opportunity to reflect on the Cherokee Indian Hospital and the power of these alumni and people like Casey Cooper and Jennifer Thompson, David, Dee Dee, everyone that has a hand in celebrating this work, it's a really special time, and I look forward to what the future holds.
Yeah, it's a bright future, and it's something that I'm sure it does the same for you, Ben. It makes me very proud to be a Catamount today doing this work and finding these partnerships. Something else that makes me really, really proud, the number of alumni and friends who showed up on One Day for Western. I know last month we did a live edition of Western Wednesdays. We haven't done one of those in a while. That was great fun. I really appreciated your help with that, Ben.
It was a blast. I mean, live is a different beast.
Totally different.
And so we had a ball.
You all have no clue how much Sam cuts out of this back and forth, but
I think they could probably get a guess.
These are actually 4-hour-long episodes to begin with. No, but thank you to thousands of you who showed up and gave so generously, and we appreciate so much everybody who did everything from make a gift to spread the word to share the enthusiasm. Students, faculty, staff, alumni, donors, friends, hangers-on, Appalachian State grads. I mean, we saw the whole gamut, and it was great.
We've got the summer coming up. I hope everyone has made plans for the Purple and Gold reunion coming up on the 26th, 27th, and 28th of July.
We're so excited. Like, we're going to have a great crowd here. It's going to be a good time. The entire weekend is going to be a good time. I want to see you out there doing the Greek games. I don't know if we're going to. I've never done a Greek games. Do you do like the wheelbarrow thing where you?
I could tell you about it, but
it's a secret thing.
The Greek games. There's some knockdown drag-outs, and so I can't wait to see some of these alumni come back. We've let our local pharmacies know to stock ibuprofen and Tylenol.
WCU EMS is on standby.
EMS is on standby. It's going to be a great time. Get up here to Cullowhee, end of July, Purple and Gold reunion.
And let me just say one more date here. Asheville alumni, Western North Carolina alumni, August 9th, we're doing a night out at the Asheville Tourist. A great time if you love baseball, particularly if you love minor league baseball. Asheville's got such a great stadium. It is such a classic stadium. We're going to be hanging out. We can't wait to see you there. You can find Purple and Gold, Asheville Tourists, all online, alumni.wcu.edu. Go check it out.
Fall football schedule's out. there's no better time, no better place to watch a football game than Cullowhee in the fall. And
That's so
we
true.
open our season at NC State on a Thursday night, so
Yeah.
we'll have a huge alumni crowd for that. We play Elon, former member of the Southern Conference this year at Elon, and then we go up to Montana
Golly.
for a game, and then we've got our conference season looking for the Cats to make another run for the playoffs this year, and so it should be a great time. Always a good time in Cullowhee, and always a good time to be with you, James.
That's right, man. Hey, go Cats, go again. Congratulations, class of 2024. This is my favorite time. I look for any excuse to put on formal wear, the whole regalia.
I've noticed
it's-
your white tie and tails.
It's really, really cool. So congrats, class of 2024. And thanks again for listening, guys. As always, go Cats.